Hey, g'day, Gareth. Good to catch up, mate. It's been a couple of weeks since Challenge Wanaka now, and that was a great day out there for you. Successfully ticked off that goal of completing a half Ironman or a 70.3 event, whichever term we want to use, or maybe use the challenge term of a middle distance event. And thanks for allowing me to record this for YouTube as well. So we'll roll into the debrief. So, how did you feel your training went leading up to the event?
Hmm. Interesting question. Um, so I'll probably preface this with saying I'm generally quite time poor. I'm juggling a lot of demands between work, family, training commitments, and of course sleep. Um, Looking at my training over the year leading up to the event, I think it went okay. I certainly missed more training sessions than I had planned to miss. Um, and I had some issues with my running, which I feel probably didn't lead to the best training in that discipline. But overall, I think the training was good. I probably hit enough sessions. I mean, I managed to complete the event at the end of the day. But always in retrospective, you can look back at it and go, oh yeah, I could have done better. But at the same time, I could have done a lot worse.
Yeah, and you prefaced it quite nicely in terms of time poor. You run your own business, you've got a busy family life, you've got a lot of things on the go, as well as some reasonably significant side projects that you're working on as well. And you're not a professional athlete. You don't have your sole focus based around your training. And then your next priority being the recovery from your training. You're balancing it all in the real world with all the other facets of your life having greater priorities than your training. At the end of the day, the training plan was designed not so much based around how much training can you do, but how much training do you need to do to achieve the goal of completing the event. And yeah, you did that really well. What were the aspects that worked well for you as part of that training?
Um, Having a known uh, routine throughout the weeks was good, regardless of what a particular workout actually was. Knowing that I'd be doing a shorter, sharper session on the bike on Tuesday. On a Wednesday, I'd be doing a run session, usually intervals, et cetera, et cetera, helped me with the mental gymnastics required to hit training goals with that time factor. As an example, I often had a swim on a Monday, and I also often have a very busy day at work on Mondays. And as a result, I would often miss that swim session. But the training plan was structured in a way that I could go, okay, yep, no, that's fine. My next swim's not till Thursday. I can slot that swim in on Tuesday or Wednesday instead. And that worked pretty well. So the structure to the training was good. Um, the intensity of the training was good as well. There wasn't any particular session that really burned everything up and made it extremely tough to do the next session. Um, Speaking about myself, I feel like I probably bit off a little more than I could chew in terms of the recovery. I only scheduled one recovery day a week. And I feel like maybe I could have used a second one, which obviously would have created a bit more time pressure around the workouts. Um, but that's just an afterthought. At the time, it felt okay.
Yeah, well, that sort of leads in, covers off my next question. What would you do differently next time? Is there anything else you can think of that would be considered to do that we didn't do this time?
Um, Again, post event, I wouldn't have said this prior to the event, but I felt like my run off the bike wasn't as good as it could have been. And so I'd possibly consider switching out one of my weekly sessions for a proper brick session. And by a proper brick session, I mean one with a block of cycling followed by a block of running. So, like, I don't know, a 30-30 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't feel for me that the brick sessions that I was doing, which was typically a very long ride, sort of 2 to up to 4 hours by the end of it, followed by a 10-minute run, gave me enough run time on the legs to really build that fatigue management in. The
Yeah,
10-minute
and
run was over before I knew it, basically.
yeah. So sort of twofold. The key side of that 10-minute run off every long bike ride you did was building the ability to transition the blood flow from the cycling muscle groups to the running muscle groups, as opposed to here's how to run on tired legs, which is a totally different goal from brick sessions. And literally, it came down to time available in your training plan. We did have some sessions there towards the end as we closed in on Wanaka from memory. Um, but yeah, point taken. More of them, and it could be that we do a long bike ride one week and then a dedicated brick session the following week, so we can manage that and get greater exposure to brick sessions for you and fit that within the time constraints of your other commitments. As for with the second rest day or in your week, that is really going to, like you sort of touched on, is going to compromise your ability to fit training in. So it might be that instead of having, if we look at it as a 14-day cycle with 2 rest days, one each week, we condense that into 10 days and have 2 rest days within a 10-day cycle and cycle through a 10-day macro cycle for your training. And in that 10 days, we fit a long bike, a long run, a long brick session, X number of swims, 4, maybe 3, as well as some other dedicated sessions for cycling and running. And that sort of macro cycle might be a lot better than a traditional 7-day macro cycle that slots in nicely with a working week. So there are some options for me to consider on the planning side and discuss with you in a bit more detail when we start building towards the next significant goal like that.
Cool, makes sense.
How was your nutrition and hydration in the days leading up to the event?
I made a conscious effort to try and drink more leading up to the event. Um, I often forget to drink unless I have a water bottle right in front of me. So I made a conscious effort to try and keep it with me and remember to keep drinking. Um, my nutrition, I didn't really do anything particular. I just continued to eat as I normally did. Um, tried to not eat too much junk food. I'm a bit of a sucker for potato chips, uh, which probably made my pace not so fast at the event. Um, but yeah, I don't think I did anything in particular in the lead up other than trying to drink a bit more water.
Nice. How did you manage your sleep and manage stress leading up to race day?
Um, I don't think I actually felt that stressed leading up to race day. I had a couple of moments where I went, have I done enough training? A little bit of a freak out, I think, as a lot of people would. Um, but then I sort of looked back over my last year and went, look, I've done enough. I've done as much as I possibly could have fitted in. I didn't ever just sit on the couch and go, I should do a workout, but I'm not going to tonight. Um, so I had that to sort of fall back on mentally. Um,
Yep.
and so as a result, whenever I started to get a little bit worried about the event and my whether I'd done enough training or whether it was going to go okay, I could sort of go to myself, no, no, you've done what you could have done. It is what it is. And I went into the event with a goal of I'm going to finish. I didn't have a specific time goal that I made essential to myself to hit. I obviously had some um, lofty goals that I was like, well, it'd be nice if I did this, but they weren't something that I was going to hold myself to.
Yeah, sweet. In terms of your race strategy, what was your race plan around pacing, nutrition, etc.?
Oh, there's a lot to unpack there. um, I'll go discipline by discipline.
Okay.
So I kicked off with a gel just before the swim. Obviously, eating or drinking anything on the swim is extremely difficult. So I just had a bit of water beforehand and a gel before I started the swim. Paced through the swim. I'm not the fastest swimmer in the world, so I think I was probably one of the last out of the water. But I just kind of went at a pace that I could sustain. I didn't try to swim fast, and as a result, the I did come out of the water quite far back, but I was happy with the swim. I felt consistent, and I felt like I didn't struggle too much on that. Coming out of the water, got onto the bike. I had some race fuel pre-mixed on the bike, 3 bottles of that, which was about 90 grams per bottle of carbs. Um, the plan was to use that throughout the ride in a sequence, so approximately 1 bottle per hour, um, with only taking on additional water and electrolytes as I went through the aid stations. So I was going to drink 1 bottle throughout the first hour, uh, switch that bottle out for a water at the aid station or the next immediate aid station, then transition to drinking water and race fuel throughout the bike ride. Um, in terms of pacing on the bike ride, I have power meters on my bike, which I can real time monitor what power I'm putting out. Um, I had an idea of what sort of power target I was aiming for, though the course kind of blew that a little bit out of the water. With the gearing on my bike, I found I was often out of the power zone that I intended to be going uphill, um, and then uh, way under on the downhill because I was trying to recover from the grinding uphill. And so my pacing was a little bit all over the show on the bike, to be honest. Um, uh, I think I had a gel nearing the end of the bike because I had gotten low on the race fuel at that point. It was either that or right before the run. It's a little bit muddy from that point on in the event. I was struggling a little bit in terms of my time and pace. So the back half of the event, I don't remember as clearly as the first half. Um, and in the run, my goal was originally to run at sort of about 7 minutes, okay, which is a moderately average pace for me. But I wasn't even able to achieve that. And I don't think it was a fueling factor. I just didn't have it in the legs after the ride. And so I just mostly walked as much as I could to get through the run, and took on a few gels throughout that to keep the energy levels up.
Nice. Were there any unexpected challenges pop up during the race? How did you handle them when they did pop up?
I can't think of anything in particular. I didn't have any flats. I did have one issue on the bike where my neck and shoulders got really sore in about the last third of the bike ride. Um, I ended up pulling over and getting off the bike and just doing some stretches on the side of the road, trying to like loosen up my neck muscles, and that did help. That's probably the biggest problem that I had during the event. Um, I think that was largely because I was riding a TT bike and I haven't done a huge amount of training on it. So I wasn't used to be sitting in the aero position the whole time.
Okay. And that managed to clear things up sufficiently to complete the ride, obviously? Or was there
Yes,
ongoing issues?
no, it cleared it up sufficiently to complete the ride, but it was about 10 minutes off the bike by the time I got off the bike, stretched properly, got it all to loosen up, and then managed to get going again. And because it was in sort of that back part of the bike, I was already pretty fatigued. So I was, I probably took a little bit longer than I could have to get going again.
Yeah,
There
sweet.
was a bit of little mental gymnastics there to convince myself to get back on the bike and keep going. Um, but for me, a DNF was not an option. That I went into the event with that in mind. Um, Barring a injury that meant I could not continue, or a mechanical on the bike that meant that I literally could not ride, I was going to finish the event.
Nice. And that sort of leads in terms of just talking about the neck and shoulders to how did your body feel during the race? Energy levels, muscular fatigue, cramps, etc.
Um, Generally pretty good. I didn't have any cramps that apart from that the neck and shoulders issue that I mentioned earlier, nothing cramped up. Um, I um, the body just kind of managed to keep going, and it was a bit of a slow burn, to be honest. So that probably helped. I wasn't going super intense. Um, I didn't cramp getting on or off the bike. Um, yeah, everything kind of held up.
Yep. What part of the race felt strongest?
Um, I think probably the first half of the bike ride felt the strongest to me. Um, I Even with the hills, it was going quite well at that point.
Yep.
I knew I was far back in the pack because of coming out of the water very late. Um, but I felt in control. I felt like I was riding well. Felt like I was managing okay. But ultimately, the 90K ride just got the better of me with the hills. It was just a bit much for my legs, I think.
Okay. What what part of the event felt the toughest?
Definitely the run. Um, the By the time I got to the run, I was extremely fatigued. I was struggling to even run. So I was basically right from the start of the 21K run, I was walking way more than I expected. Um, and I managed that as best as I could by letting myself walk, making it okay to walk. And then when I felt like I could, running a bit more.
Nice. How did you manage your mindset and focus during the race?
Um, Primarily through being knowing that my goal was that I was going to finish, and that my goal was to finish rather than meet a specific time. That helped me to um, effectively keep myself moving forward, even though I was really suffering. Um, it was a case of going, I've done the training, I'm committed to this, I've come this far, I'm going to finish it. Um, and for the most part, that worked. Um, I had a moment in the run when I just had to stop and just have a moment to go, this is horrible, I'm not enjoying this. But then after that passed, I said, well, let's just get on with it. There's only another 10K to go. Off we go.
Sweet. And once again, you're leading nicely into these questions I've got pre-planned. It's beau
Well,
beautiful. It almost looks like you're reading over my shoulder from uh,
most
totally
definitely
different part of the
assure you I
country.
am not.
Yeah.
I have no idea what these questions are. It's
Yeah.
just off you
Okay,
go.
so
What's next?
next question was, were there any negative thoughts? And clearly there were.
Yeah,
So leading on from that, how did you overcome them? And you sort of already covered that off in terms of giving yourself that mental uppercut and saying, well, we've only got 10 Ks to go. Let's crack on.
yeah. Um, I I would have liked to not be in that position and felt a lot more comfortable on the run. Hence the earlier comments around the brick workouts. Um, but I know that from my training, my running training was not where I wanted it to be. And I think that came through in the back half of the event, definitely.
Yeah. What kept you motivated during those tough moments?
The atmosphere at the event was great. Everyone was really supportive. I was there with the Quick Kiwi team who were amazing and supportive on the sidelines, um, cheering me on as I went around the various out and backs. That was really great to see. Um, it was a beautiful day. The scenery was beautiful. It was a great place to do my first event, and I would highly recommend it, despite the fact that I felt the course was probably not a beginner's course. Um, but at the same time, I wouldn't have wanted a completely flat concrete loop to pound away on for the duration of the event.
Yeah. And there's a reason why Challenge Wanaka is often voted one of the most scenic triathlons in the world by American magazines, European magazines, websites, etc. It's always up there. So, and it's one of the reasons why I like going there too. So post what race reflections, what went well overall?
Um, Finishing went well. Sorry, just had to close the door.
Yep.
Um, Finishing went well. I feel like I managed my fueling pretty well. I didn't have too much gastric distress. So even though I was taking on what for me would probably have been way more fuel than I would have taken on in my training, I was using fuel that I knew was good for me that I had had before in training, just probably more of it than I usually would. Um, so I think I managed my fueling and my hydration pretty well. Uh, I know that when I got to the end of the event, I wasn't absolutely ravenous, which is probably a good sign that I fueled adequately throughout the event. Um, and I was quite thirsty for probably the 2 or 3 days following the event, which probably means I probably didn't take on enough hydration,
Yeah.
probably
That's
enough to get through it. But um, yeah, does that answer the question? That one's a bit of a harder
yeah.
one, huh?
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself as an athlete?
That I have some grit. I've done a few longer events in my. Don't want to use the word career because I'm not a professional athlete. But so I knew that I was able to keep going even when the body was telling me to quit. Um, but this really did reinforce that. Um, it's, I guess it's taught me that I need to be honest with myself when it comes to the training, because I did often beat myself up during the training about the workouts that I was missing and the impact that was going to have on my event, but yet I still managed to finish the event. So I think that's something good to reflect on.
Yeah, nice. And the last section here, looking at the general things going forward, and we'll talk about the detail offline once we stop the recording. But what do you feel your goals for your next race, as in your next half Ironman distance or middle distance event, could or would be?
I'm sorry. The the goals for my next event would be probably to finish a little bit more comfortably. Um, uh, I feel that if I was to do another half Ironman, choice of words intentional, um, I I'd like to probably take, I don't know, a good 10% off my result, which I'm intentionally not mentioning my exact results. Obviously, people can go and look them up online if they want. Um, but I think that's a realistic goal given the time that I came in at.
Yeah. Now, be proud of what you achieved. You set out with the goal of completing it, and completing it successfully is one thing you clearly did. Regardless of place, regardless of time, you achieved that successfully.
Thank
So,
you.
well done.
I do know that, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that my time was so slow that taking 10% off is achievable.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's cut-offs for a reason, and you were under those cut-offs. So, yeah, don't beat yourself up. There are people out there in the world that don't achieve those cut-offs,
Yeah. Thank you.
and they're still out there doing better than the people on the couch. So,
Yeah.
and
One final thought is during the run I had the tail end Charlie with me for quite a lot of the run, chasing me along. Well, not chasing, they were very, very supportive. Um, but one thing I realized at the end when I finished the event and I looked at the results, the person who was second to last in front of me was only about 2 minutes ahead of me. And if I had known that at the time, I probably would have changed my attitude during the run and tried to catch him.
I hadn't looked at that aspect of the results because where I first saw you in the second half of the second lap on the run, they were probably more than 10 minutes ahead of you. So you closed up that massively then in those last few Ks.
Yeah, I must have done. I would imagine he slowed down. I remember seeing who I assume it was on my way out to the second turnaround and thinking, he seems like he's quite far ahead of me. I'm probably not going to catch him. And then I never saw him again. But then
Yeah.
looking at the results afterwards, apparently he was not too far ahead of me.
No. Uh, if I'd known you were closing on in on them that much, I would have been giving you a bit more of a push. I might have broken some try and Z rules there if I knew.
Yeah.
So, hey, once again, well done. A fantastic achievement. You set that goal of getting through the event and stepping up with very few triathlons under your belt, but you've got a number of endurance events behind you, just not as triathlons. Well done. You achieved your goals, you set them, and at the end of the day, you did knock them out of the water. So, there's a number of things we can do differently next time to lift that performance even more. And I think with a bit of focus, that 10% improvement that you would like is very achievable. But we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail closer to Challenge Wanaka next year when we settle in on a plan. Maybe we'll talk about in the next 15 minutes once we've completed this recording. Anything else before I press the stop button?
No, I think we've covered the event recap pretty well.
Yeah, awesome. Well done.
Cool. Thank you.